Okay, and that brings us to the fallopian tube. When you see here, we go to the picture below here, we have the ovaries here. We have the fimbria here, the opening of the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube reach around here on top, and then they enter into the pear-shaped uterus right here. They're anchored in here. What this down here is the broad ligament, and then we have the ovary anchored onto the uterus, and then we have this mesosalpinx, it's called, that then extends to anchor the fallopian tube. Inside we have simple columnar ciliated epithelium tissue, and we have longitudinal folds, and the folds go direct a fluid stream that towards the uterus, so towards the uterine opening in here. So the sperm have to swim against that, but the egg wants to be transported down to it. Germ cells migration lasts about 4 to 6 days. So from here all the way out down here is about 4 to 6 days. And that brings us to the uterus, and that's a pear-shaped organ that supports the fertilized ovum. The muscle here, this muscle, the big muscle stuff on the outside, it's a muscular organ, it's very strong. It's the corpus uteri. The fundus is on top, and it lies above the two openings. The openings are known as tubal ostia. Ostia is an opening. In the below, it a narrow isthmus. Here an isthmus transitions into a uterine neck inferiorly, and then we have an external os, and that's where below that we have the vagina. Goes into the vagina. The uterine cavity is lined with a mucous membrane. That's called the endometrium. So that's actually on the inside. The uterine endometrium is on the inside here. And then the big, thick wall of muscles, about 2 centimeters thick, that's the myometrium, and that's muscle. And then on top we have the perimetrium, and that's surrounding and anchoring the uterus. But look at the words again. We have endo, and that's on the inside. Myo is muscle, and then peri is surrounding it. And depending on the phase of the cycle that we're in, the mucosa itself, the endometrium, is 2 to 8 millimeters thick. And that brings us to the vagina. And that's a thin-walled tube that has a weakly developed muscle layer. Its blind end surrounds the external os, forming the vaginal vault, the fornix, that's up here. It's lined with stratified squamous epithelium that can changes with the menstrual cycle. And the vaginal milieu, the internal surrounding environment, is kept slightly acidic due to the lactobacillus, which is a bacterium, a commensal, that's transforming desquamated cells into lactic acid. And that's an ingenious way of keeping pathogens away, because they don't like the acidic environment. The urethra, vagina, and the glands terminate in an area here, it's called the vulva, right in here. It's bound laterally and posteriorly by skin folds. Those are the labia majora and the minora, and anteriorly we have a clitoris. The labia majora contain adipose tissue as well as sweat and scent glands, and the clitoris arises from 2 cruros that come. This is a picture from underneath the pelvis. This is the anterior, the pubic symphysis, so they come from 2 crura from the inferior pubic rama extending in erectile glands. And we have large lubricating vestibular glands that open on each side into the vaginal opening. And we can have a membrane, they call it a hymen, that can partly occlude the vaginal orifice. And that brings us to the breasts. Mammary glands and breasts derive from skin and lie over the pectoralis muscle. So the pectoralis muscle is on the bottom, underneath, this ready tissue, and then on top we have the mammary glands and the breast tissue. They are functionally related to the sex organs in the female. Breasts are made of glandular, adipose, and other connective tissue. They develop due to hormonal changes during puberty. So let's see, we have the glands right in here and the muscle underneath it. When we look at the cross-section, we have 15 to 20 lacteal sinuses that end into mammary ducts. Here are the ducts, and then they drain into the nipple. And during pregnancy, the mammary glands, they proliferate. The colostrum is secreted before the milk, and it contains a lot of cells and fat droplets that contain antibody or are protected for the newborns. Prolactin is a hormone that leads to milk secretion, and oxytocin promotes lactation by helping the myoepithelial cells contract. Okay, that's that for that chapter. I hope you learned something.